Assalamu alaikum warbar. Welcome to the Masjid Carpark. We hope everyone is well. How have you guys been? How did you like it?
Salam.
How was the warbar?
So, what about it? Because I sent a message, because you guys say wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh in a bit weird way. So I said, don't say wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh until you know how to say it. And I sent a recording on how to actually say it properly. But anyways, then I said, don't say assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum, WR dot BR dot. That's why you're mocking me now.
Huh?
But
warbar is good. It makes it short, but it's clear.
yeah, but it doesn't mean anything. So, but welcome everyone. Welcome one and all. We didn't actually explain to people last week actually what the podcast is about. We just got into it. So for our audience, alhamdulillah, this podcast is not a dars per se. Because I'm, quote unquote imam of a masjid, then it's not a dars. It's actually, the name itself says it all. Masjid Carpark, where the brothers meet and they catch up on community news. Brothers help each other out. They bump into each other. They catch up, family, whatever, good news, bad news, and community.
Laugh at the guy that's parked his car incorrectly, rocking three other uncles off.
Yeah, and also the guy who's there's a group that's in our masjid. There's a dark corner where the brothers smoking for some reason. They gather there and they smoke. It's always, and you have to call out who's there. Like they're smoking in the group. Like they're.
I know there's dark corners.
So so it's just in the car park, the community where it meets, especially in Western countries. You could say like Australia, where the car park, a lot of things happen in the car park, good things, and community and family and just catch up. So we thought, put it on a podcast, make a podcast, representing that sort of experience, inshallah. And we hope, inshallah, through this, eventually we'll be on video, we will be live, and we'll engage the community and be aware of the good works, good projects, brothers and sisters doing the community. We're aware of that. We can give support, a voice to that as well, and help out. People can call in and we'll be able to talk to them directly and be aware of what's happening in our community, inshallah.
Mashallah, and we'll eventually get to saying warbar properly. Lata, what do you think?
Inshallah. I think we'll get there.
We'll get there, Malana. We are already there. But we're just not recognized for our achievements.
Yeah, well, you can go back to the recording and check your warbar.
So what's been happening this week?
There was a walima yesterday in the masjid, mashallah. You start to feel older when you hear guys that were like born or babies in front of you, and they're getting married, and they're men, mashallah.
Mashallah.
They set up and they're doing they got their own companies and they got businesses and and they, mashallah, and they remind you that I grew up in front of you. They make you feel old, because I was a baby in front of you. Mashallah, it was a good.
We used to do that to our uncles when we were younger as well, and we never thought about the impact we were having.
Now you're their uncle.
Yeah.
Or I should say we are the uncle.
We gave them a midlife crisis without realizing it. But no, mashallah, it was a beautiful, especially after COVID, after all the lockdown, and we haven't seen anybody, and just to see everybody happy and eating and
mashallah.
Community. Yeah, we need it. We need it. We don't have Christmas, but this is better than Christmas. Walima, alhamdulillah.
How was the food?
It was good. It was better
than halal easy?
They were Palestinians, so it was it was nice. They do that Arab style
barbecues.
Not barbecue. What do you call it? Like a roasts? They put on
with the rice inside.
No. It's put on top and there's rice. Yeah, it's like a rice. I can't remember what it's called. There's a name for it. We order it at aqiqahs and stuff, like ready-made stuff.
Oh, mandi.
Yeah, mandi.
That's with the rice with the meat on top.
Yeah. It's nice. It was nice. And then they had biryani. I asked them if it was Palestinian biryani, but he said there's no such thing. They got biryani there. But anyway, it was nice, mashallah. It was nice, and kanafa and
mashallah.
Proper, mashallah. Very not diet friendly food.
So your halal easy went out the window last night?
Well, for the sake of the ummah, we have to sacrifice our stomachs.
You see the sacrifice.
No, it was a nice event. But in the middle of that, then I had to go, as soon as I put the plate down, a call came in and then I had to go deal with an inheritance issue. And that's, for some reason, that's been happening regularly lately. like a lot of family disputes, and I realized that the inheritance issues are worse than they're worse than divorces.
Why?
Divorces usually is 2 people and kids, like that's pretty much it. Inheritance, like could be like 10 people involved, and they're all at each other's throats for money or don't care, and all their problems of their whole life, 20, 30 years, kids cut off, disown kids. Like, there's a
Yeah.
they don't
There's
know
a lot of
they don't know their
issues.
grandkids from one side of the family. Like there's so much stuff comes out. It's like decades of things come out because they're tied in through the inheritance.
Yeah.
But their lives are like they don't know each other. They're like, it's very sad. So as soon as I put the plate down, they said, "Oh, we're waiting for you. So you have to come now."
Before this is put the plate down to eat.
Yeah, I put it down. I looked at it. It looks so good and hot. And the brothers were there, and we were about to. And because I'm the imam, then I'm in the front of the queue, and then automatically these are the privileges you get. And then as I was about to, I actually got the fork, and I was about to dig into it. I said, "Oh no," and then I had to go and deal with that. But I've been dealing with a few of them. I realized that a lot of the inheritance. People have not done a will properly, and people have all these. One is not doing the will properly, and then there's properties involved. Best thing to do is just as soon as a person dies, there's a will. Properties are sold. Doesn't matter who lives there, mum lives there, whatever. Sold, and a new arrangement is like that. Everyone gets their haqq and move on. That is the most cleanest, best, straightforward way to do things.
So
This thing of dragging out into like, oh, we can't sell this house. No, it's just dunya. It's a house. That's it. It's miras is supposed to cut everything down to size, and it's like
miras. What is miras?
inheritance. Sorry, the idea of perpetual growth, like our dunya has to continue increasing. No, inheritance cuts it down to size.
Yes.
So there's it's just people have to know what they own in their life. Number one, and like this is mine. This is like in the lifetime it should be known. Like, all right, we have an agreement, husband, wife, they have agreement, half of everything is owned by us. So when one passes away, all right, one half goes to her because they've already have an agreement for that. And the other half is inheritance. She gets a share out of it, and the kids, if there's kids, they get a share out of it, and so forth. But the idea of just anyway, it sort of wrecked the walima, but anyway, that's the bottom line.
So was
when I came back,
the
it was
food cold?
Yeah, it was cold by the time, but it was delicious still. Mashallah.
Mashallah.
Anyway, it's a heavy subject, but I think Muslims need to. It's not just about sorting out. They need to be actually cold when dealing with money, and not make it about
Emotion.
And it has to be decided, and everyone gets their haqq.
But I don't think
I have a
away.
question.
Yeah.
Sorry. So earlier you said that take care of your will and whatnot. What happens if someone doesn't do that?
If they're married, usually it just goes to the wife. Then she's Islamically responsible for making sure that everyone gets their haqq.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we've also found
it's like a default mode. I think in recent years, like 100% goes to the spouse that's alive. The surviving, the widow. If the husband passed away first, then she gets full ownership. She gets the whole inheritance, but then she's Islamic before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She's obliged to make sure everyone gets their haqq.
Yep.
Sort of the ball's in a court, but she shouldn't be using that for any causing grief to anybody. Just basically make sure she distributes all the.
I don't think it's just an Islamic thing, because even on ABC Radio, there's a lot of discussion on it. And when you listen to Talkback Radio, they always have guests on about get your will in order, because it becomes very, very messy later on.
Messy, painful, hurt, breaks up communities, family. It's because as Muslims, like, we're supposed to take care of the family and so forth. We're supposed to be taking care of our elder. Like there's a akhlaq thing so emphasized in deen. All of that goes out the window because of the fights and things, and it's actually just. That's what I'm saying. It's more painful than watching than a divorce. Divorce a bit more clear cut. This one is like there's kids involved, and like then there's the kids that are cut off from the family. They get involved, and money has a way of jogging your memory. So there's all these people come out of the woodworks. They remember stuff that didn't. They have forgotten for 10 years. So there's one lawyer. She told me that he goes, money has a way of making you jogging the memory. But anyway. It's This is the unfortunate.
I better go home and calculate everything that I own.
Yeah.
Might take me a few days.
Yeah.
You're not.
There was one mediator. She said, "I'm so good at with divorces and all these things." He goes, "I split." What did she say? I split 3 dogs 2 ways in a divorce.
That's quite impressive.
Because I'm so good at my job. So,
speaking of,
when lawyers get involved, then it's
that's
a waste of a waste of money as well.
Especially with lawyers, the amount of money that they charge just to do anything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's why you become a lawyer.
No, I don't know if I want to go down that track.
It's a very lucrative career.
So any other? How about you, Lata? What's happening with you
this week? Nothing much, to be honest. It's always like that lately.
The nothing much is what's happening.
Yeah.
So what did you do in your nothing much week?
Well, went to work. Did a lot of things there. But apart from that, no, nothing much, to be honest. But just dealing with processing being inshallah, being a new dad, because
Mashallah,
my wife is pregnant during March, so that's always in the back of my mind. Like, I'm not a
individual entity.
Yeah. I'm not alone anymore. I've other than being responsible for myself, I'm responsible for another human being.
And your wife.
And my wife, obviously. But like the wife can kind of take care of herself, I don't have to wake up and feed her, But it's just that's been playing on my mind a lot.
What about it has been playing on your mind?
What I've just been telling you, bro.
Just that. The responsibility of it.
Yeah, the responsibility and just having to, because for you it's probably no big deal because you've already had kids and mashallah they're already like they're teenagers now, but
mashallah
this is my first time, so it's just
it's
running
fun.
through my mind.
It's fun and they grow up quick. That's all I can say.
Alhamdulillah,
enjoy them while they last.
Yeah.
And then there was something else that we must bring up today. Something about a volunteer barbecue Brother Irfan was mentioning.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So apparently Doncaster, should I fill him in? Let's fill everybody in. Doncaster.
So Brother Irfan he's sitting here, does the audio and mixer and stuff.
Well, and just before you continue, guys, listen to the depth of pain in this man's voice as he's telling this story.
There's no pain. It's
okay.
What happens, the brothers who are volunteers in the masjid, yesterday they had a barbecue. But they didn't invite the imam of the masjid, So
who's the imam of the masjid?
Myself. And so I hear about this barbecue. Not one of them, not even one of them. I see them in the mosque. One of them came last night. Was Uncle Rauf there? He came to me and he smiled in my face after Maghrib. There's no mention there was a barbecue. That you guys had a party today, and mashallah, Allah reward all the brothers. They're volunteers and they help in the masjid, Jummah, different jobs in the masjid over the years, and like they're part of the masjid. That's what makes the masjid run, and they give their own time, mashallah, for the sake of Allah, inshallah, and Allah accept all their efforts. But it would be nice if the imam was also just invited. If I couldn't come, I couldn't come. But
I think they got so busy with volunteering that they didn't have time to remember. I mean, if it was at someone's house that we know, different story. What house was it again?
Yeah. They forget.
I think it was at Brother.
They think I live in the masjid or something.
It was
like
at Irfan's house. It was at Brother Irfan's house. Oh, that was your house, wasn't it?
It was your house? Allahu Akbar. Mashallah.
You just found out.
Anyway, it's all right.
You just chucked them under the bus.
Oh, no. This was just... I was waiting for this moment.
Yeah. So Allah reward you and... mashallah, and I'll accept your...
But I have to say, Brother Irfan, you did an amazing job. I loved those chops.
Did you go?
No, I wasn't there.
You're not even a volunteer in the masjid. Mashallah. How many brothers came?
Hear the pain, people.
7, mashallah. These are usually Jummah and Ramadan guys. Huh? Iftar guys, which there was no iftar this year. And
are you talking about the guys that are regular in the masjid?
The only one who was working in the masjid. There was the imam. We were doing recordings every night and dua. And you were there, but
I think he means he's talking about the guys that are regular in the masjid there every single day.
No, I'm there. I'm there 5 nights a week. 4 nights a week. Alhamdulillah.
All right. I'm not gonna. I think I'm gonna
I think we should leave Malala alone before
stop
we get
twisting
struck
the
by
knife inside.
So
Mashallah.
no, but yesterday I probably couldn't come anyway because we had this Hafiz Hamza. He had a course, Egyptian brother from a masjid. Sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, you didn't want to disturb our.
So brother Irfan Elder, he's not on the. He hasn't got a microphone, but he's saying he knew about it. That's why he
the course. So
didn't
he
invite
didn't want to
Sheikh Khalid.
disturb.
So he didn't want you to be torn between two loves.
Yeah. So brother Hamza, he's a Hafiz al-Quran, Egyptian brother. He got ijazas. So he's doing like a 2-year course, upskilling our teachers, our maktab teachers, our mosque, any other advanced students and so forth. They can do reading. He'll be theory and also practical, like reading. You have to read. So you have to do all this theory, like 4 or 5 levels of theory, and then also what do you call it? Reading with him from cover Surah Fatiha to Surah Nas, the whole Quran with him with the theory implemented.
Subhanallah.
So then you get an ijazah, like when they're chained from you to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's an amazing program.
There are a few
shuyukh in Melbourne, Sheikh Abdul Hawari and others. They are doing it in Melbourne. There's other ulama they've done this already and they're doing it. Tartil, there's a program here as well for sisters, I think. So there's quite a few programs like that. Ijazah. It's a very old way of doing it. But he's using Sheikh Ayman Suwaid, if I'm correct. He's a Suwaid from, I think he's in Jeddah, but he's, I think, a Syrian. So he developed like this whole, like 40 years, he developed this like system of, like using the modern sort of like phonetic, like how you make sounds, so that basically our Quran is exactly the way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited. So it's amazing. It's like amazing, like the amount of effort that was made by these ulama in the past and so forth. So, mashallah, we're very fortunate to have in our corner of Melbourne, Doncaster, someone contributing and developing our community, inshallah.
Is there a cost to that course?
I don't know the details yet. The costs are not mentioned.
So if anybody wants to find out the details, that's why I'm just...
Yeah, they can they can ask about it. But it's not for people learning how to read or basic tajweed. Yep. This is for teachers and advanced maktab teachers and advanced students as well. So there's a couple of brothers already studying with him, inshallah, ijazas. But just to have that talent or pool or that experience or skill set in a masjid in our community, alhamdulillah, we're very blessed, alhamdulillah.
Inshallah.
Yeah. So, Abdul Wajid, how was your camping trip?
My camping trip, well, there's been an interesting development of that camping trip. We were going to go along the coast up to Sydney. However, now we have border closures coming back in due to COVID rearing its ugly head in, the northern beaches of Sydney. So now we're going to just hit
What's the northern beaches? Like, what does that mean? How far does that go up?
I think it goes up to Manly, wasn't it? There was talk today of Manly as well.
Okay.
So you're looking along those areas. So we're going to stick to Eastern Victoria.
Okay.
And see how
That's
we go.
also nice.
Yeah, so
I've done the
we'll
drive from there to right up to Queensland to Tamworth. Done the whole East Coast. They're beautiful places, mashallah.
Well, right now, the only place you can drive within New South Wales is within New South Wales. So
that's right, yeah. They're completely locked off from everybody.
Off. Everybody's...
Sydney can't go out of Sydney.
Sydney can't. Well, anyone travelling from New South Wales
can't come into
any other state. They've got... This is... I think the main thing is Greater
Till tomorrow.
Sydney.
I think tomorrow is a...
Last moment.
Okay. Anybody wants to come back, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come back or go home if they're from New South Wales.
Yeah, it's not over yet.
Yeah.
It's not over yet.
It's not going to be over until we have the vaccinations done.
Yeah. The northern Sydney, like what sort of area? Like northern beaches?
Northern beaches. I think we're looking at what was it? Manly.
Like what type of area is it? Like it's
an expensive area. Anywhere I think along the beach, generally is an expensive area.
Frankston, not really.
No, not Frankston. It's not.
I don't know what's in Sydney.
Yeah, like it's not a Frankston.
Frankston of Sydney.
But usually
no
higher
to Frankstoners if they're listening.
Frankston's developed pretty.
It's doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's doing very well.
Okay, 20 years ago it wasn't really.
No, it's not. It's not 20 years ago.
It's not what you think it is anymore.
It is not what. If you go for just a drive down there,
but I must admit,
development that's happened is
there
amazing.
are still some of those experiences.
Yeah.
All I can think about is when you said experiences is Sam Newman.
My last memory of it was a beach there where nearly stepped on a syringe.
Oh,
that was my last memory of Frankston.
What were you doing with a syringe in the Frankston?
No, I nearly stepped on it. It was in the sand, and somebody had planted it in the sand, sticking up.
Really?
So, yeah, that was the last my last memory of it.
Subhanallah.
Yeah. But other than that, it's okay. So it's developed, huh?
It's had a big impact. These border closures have had a big impact on a lot of people's Christmas and holiday plans.
Right.
Because I mean, the other day I met someone as well, and her flatmate was going to Queensland to see the family for Christmas, but she decided to stop off in Sydney for a bit of a holiday and see some friends. So that's completely thrown her travel plans out of whack. So I don't know if she'll be. I don't know what happened after that, but would she be allowed back to Queensland or even back to Victoria without quarantining?
No, she would have to quarantine. But speaking on that, what do you guys think of Christmas? Christmas in Australia, because it's summer here, and everything that we get from, on TV and
especially the northern hemisphere stuff. There's
or snowy.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing to do with us because we're Muslims, so it doesn't really. But it's in our face, and our kids go to school, and like we have those. I remember primary school. I mean, this is a memory from primary school. What is it? White Christmas. That's sweet. The rice bubble sweet.
I was going to say
that's my memory. I know we got all these.
So it's a sweet. Okay.
It's like it's a sweet.
It's like a caramel slice, but it's made out of rice bubbles, and it doesn't have any caramel or slice in it.
That doesn't sound too good.
It's like
That's actually not bad.
It is weird. Like you're trying
bad.
to do like a winter Christmas, but like in the southern hemisphere, it's kind of like they're doing it. Like it's not we're doing it, but it's imposed upon us, I guess. But then like there's a Santa Claus wearing a suit in like 40-degree heat, and
that's got to be hot with that beard. I mean, I've got a beard and I get hot, and mine's real.
So there's like these odd things.
Mashallah.
Like it doesn't even make sense, but I mean, it's.
I think it's maintaining the whole cultural thing. Like whilst you're in Australia, even though we are in the southern hemisphere, I mean, Christianity is from the north.
I don't even think it's. I mean, I don't know. I mean, because it's not something that I'm well versed in. But a lot of the aspects of Christmas doesn't really.
No, it's actually pagan. It's a lot
like
of
it's very
it.
Pagan.
It's actually the Romans, like they sort of created around the summer solstice, the winter solstice, and it's actually pagan festivals. They fitted with Christianity. So what they wanted was these like the German tribes and all these European, like the Romans, because they were pagans. So they wanted to, like the state religion change. The Romans changed their religion to Christianity. But then what they did is they create to bring the people in. So they sort of like mixed the old religion
with the new
religion.
Are you telling me Isa alayhi salam wasn't born on the 25th of December?
No.
If you check with the Orthodox, I don't know when he was. I don't know his birthday, but but if you see the
mind blow.
I think Orthodox.
The 25th actually comes from Coca-Cola.
And
I don't think so. That's
come on.
No. The red thing, the Santa thing a lot of it comes from Coca.
Okay, maybe I'm confusing the two.
Yeah, you are.
The 25th comes from Coke.
But I do know something with Santa is...
No, Santa, the red color, I think they got that from
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Is that right?
Yeah, I heard Allah Alam. That's
I mean, if you look at...
I have to do a fact check on that one, but...
so we need a Christmas
Look at his
topic.
uniform. His uniform matches the Coca-Cola
yeah, but that's
colours.
not necessarily that. But I heard that as well. Look, there's a lot of definitely huge commercial aspect of it. They were doing Santa in the Emirates or something.
What?
Yeah, there's a whole Santa. I mean, it's 50 degrees Celsius there. It's nuts. Like they.
Well, at least they wouldn't have to look far to find a guy with a white beard.
You reckon those guys there?
Uncle, Grandpa, how would you like to wear this outfit today?
So, but they like those sort of like it is a completely shirk festival, and like we can't have any part of it, like obviously, but it's just something that it's put in our face constantly. But especially those go to public school, like especially I don't know in the 80s and 90s, it was like a big part of being like. There was no concept of like there was no happy holidays.
Yeah,
there was a you had to say
it was in your face.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with Christmas, like we as Muslims, we would look at it and we associate it as a Christian celebration. However, I remember just when I was working with non-Muslims celebrating Christmas, there was one guy that was so far from Christianity that it's not a joke, right? So he didn't identify as anything, but for him or for a lot of people, Christmas is actually just a time of family coming together. Yeah, we call it Christmas, associate that, but it's also a time where people just come together. It's a chance to connect, celebrate, get really, really drunk, and recover the next day.
Yeah, and I think they're looking forward to it.
And also,
I think
it's a holiday.
I think the non-Muslims or Christians, they're looking at it, whoever Australians generally, they're looking forward to it because of post-COVID, like they need that family and people upset. It's not. I don't think it's so much about religion, and it's just probably a family event more than
it is a family event. It's a massive family event.
So
and
even it doesn't make sense. The imagery doesn't make sense in like summer bushfire
I'm
Australia.
dreaming of a white Christmas.
It totally doesn't make sense. But I think it's more about just a point where they used to give gifts and presents and to be happy, I guess. Less so maybe a religious thing than.
But I think with the Australiana side of things, the imagery, if I think about it, is more the Santa hat, but then there's the thongs and the beach, shorts and t-shirt.
Yeah, this doesn't fit with where we are in summer, like in Australia.
It does.
What?
The Santa hat.
How?
Because if you're drowning at the beach, you've got that little white ball that's floating on top, so somebody can come and save you. We've got the French laws happening as well now. There was a French politician that put into Parliament a potential law where they can lock up people that are radicalized. So they haven't been convicted of anything.
It's like the Chinese law.
Basically, yeah. But in France.
There was a guy that I was listening to about 10 years ago, as a professor from the US, and he was talking about, what was it? He was talking about this is after September 11, about a few years after September 11. He said, he was talking about the Japanese internment camps in the US in the 40s. So during World War II, there was internment camps created in the US for basically Japanese they're Americans, but the Japanese origin, so they didn't trust them. So they made these internment camps in the desert, like in the US. So all Japanese were rounded up because they didn't trust them. All Japanese origin Americans. They were rounded up and they were taken to these internment camps. And they basically had to stay there till the end of the war because they couldn't trust them. There might be spies working for the Japanese just because of their origin. And he said something interesting. He said, this is years ago, I was on radio. He said that in the name of security, like when push comes to shove, when it comes to security and national security and so forth, he said, we will put, and he's not supporting it because we've done it repeatedly throughout history. Because when it comes to our security, this is how human beings work. They will put people they deem a risk to society. They will put them in, because we'll put them in internment camps, because we did it with he named certain American, because like we know Navajo, we know Apache, these tribes, because the only reason they exist is because we gave them the white colonial, the Americans, we gave them a deadline, and we gave them, okay, you got to go on this side of the Mississippi, as an example. These exist because the ones that stayed on this side, he named the list of tribes, they no longer exist because we wiped them out. He says we've done this repeatedly for our security, and this is like a human instinct that we will do whatever it takes to protect. And he's not praising, he's criticizing it. He says this is our behavior, this is human behavior. We have to secure our defense. Like it's done repeatedly over and over again. So, for example, the reason why there's all these quote-unquote defensive wars, where Australia is going overseas to attack another, it's all done in the supposed name of their securing their national interests. So they will make another, raise another country to the ground because they feel threatened by them. That's just human. Like you won't live in a situation where you feel you're a risk, or your resources, or your oil, whatever it is a risk. So it's a human. So he said we'll do it, and he goes, if we have to do it, at the end he said, if we have to do it to Muslims, if we need to do it, we'll do it. Wow. So I think a lot it's lost on a lot of people. So this guy maybe it's a minority view, maybe it's like one or two people.
Well, the laws are. I think it was what the laws are is radicalisation. So does that? But and then
so that can apply to anyone.
Well, that's right. Again in the article it said.
And in France is like
it's you can see that it's targeted towards Muslims. Yeah,
of course. There's nobody else, and like even the word, like we know for how long the terrorist was basically synonymous with a Muslim extremist. Like they wouldn't. Now they're sort of shifting it to white supremacist, right wing sort of terrorists, which are becoming the biggest threat, especially in the West. But like with Macron, like the French president, what he did with if you see the laws they've tabled after that, those attacks and so forth, basically like they will come in masjids, don't sign up to the French ideals of freedom of speech and all that sort of stuff. Like they have to be like almost like you can't just say whatever you want.
They've got to be managed.
So exactly, by the state.
Yeah.
So it's a very strange thing, because on one side they say the French are famous for separating church and state. On the other side is they will manage
the church,
or in this case the masjid. Like they will actually go out of their way to, micromanage what's said at the on the pulpit. So it's a weird situation. One side is saying, oh no, we're free to say and do whatever you want. On their side, we're gonna, it's contradictory. So in with that background, when this law comes forward, then how far do you go? And people, when the economy's not doing so well and business are failing, so you're looking for the other to blame all your frustrations and so forth. So they take it out, like what happened in World War One. Before World War Two, they took it out on the Jews, with what the programs that they made there, with the Germans, what they did. So the Nazis, what they did. So they took their own failures out on a weaker minority. So that's just unfortunate. This is maybe like a human failing that keeps repeating itself throughout history. Anyway, and if you look at if you go to China, and we mentioned last week, and brothers requested that discuss the issue of in the China, like where they actually have massive already. There's internment camp, millions. It's amazing. Like 1 million people can be put into a quote unquote re-education center.
And there's nothing anybody could do about it.
I was listening on the radio, and there was a man from an Australian from Melbourne who got reunited with his wife, who was in one of those detention centers.
Yeah, that was on the news this week. Last week.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Well, I don't know if she came back, or he's in the process of bringing her back.
No, I think he got his wife. They came. There was one that came back last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they reunited. He didn't see his kid. I don't think he ever saw his kid. He's like 3 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are. See, many people. I was speaking to a brother yesterday. He's from China, Muslim brother. And he was telling me that I think a lot of Muslims have forgotten what communism was about. And one of the big aspects of communism is to be ultra secular and anti-religion. It's part of read Marx, read Lenin, read Stalin, read these people, the famous. They are, and out of all the religion, they seem to be. They hate Christianity, any religion, any shape or form, but they really have a disdain for Islam. So whether you go through Yugoslavia, whether you go through Soviet Russia, whether you go to China, whether you go through Vietnam, Laos, all these countries, wherever communists have been, they seem to have a special hate for Islam. And what the Muslims in Chechnya, Dagestan, all these countries, have a look at the recent Kazakhstan, what they put the Muslims there through in the 80 years Soviet Union existed, in the 70 years. You could look at Yugoslavia. Look at one of the sad things. I sent a picture. Some of the ulama imams in Melbourne, they were something was in a chat. Then if you Google it, 1930 Sarajevo and hijab or niqab.
Okay.
Like 99% of the ladies were in niqab in Sarajevo, in the middle of Europe.
Subhanallah.
Like when you see that picture, these Muslims were in it's kind of actually sad, because what happened was that when the Khilafah actually collapsed, what happened was that all these frontier places like Bulgaria and even in Bosnia, which is part of the Balkans, and Albania and so forth, when we became like a national, each one worry about their own. These frontier Muslims who were on these frontiers, like whether it be in China, in Turkestan, East Turkestan, or whether it be in Dagestan, Chechnya, they were basically abandoned by the main bulk of the Muslims, because they became minorities,
right?
But they've been there for 1,000 years, 1,200 years, So all of a sudden, the main, the Arab world or the central Muslim, they sort of withdrew. Because when you had a Khalifa, he was a representative of all the Muslims all over the world. Everyone pledged allegiance, even if there were sometimes nominal rulers. Even in India, the Mughals would give their allegiance to the Ottomans, right? They acknowledge them. This is the Khalifa of the Muslims. So we had this sort of central figure, and had armies, whatever. But even though he might not have been as strong as the Abbasis or the Banu Umayyah before, but it was something that sort of tied the Muslims.
United everybody.
It linked. There was a thread that tied. But I think when the nation state was like really firmly established and the Khilafah was like dismantled and the Khalifa was gotten rid of, one of the I don't know. This is just my observation. That I think these frontier states or Muslim communities, and they were just basically they were like overrun by either communists, mainly communists, whether in China or Soviet or the Yugoslavia. It was mainly in the Eastern Bloc. It was Muslim. These Muslims were just sort of abandoned almost. And how are they going to maintain like as an extreme minority with a very repressive?
So did they have at that time imams and sheikhs within them, around them that would have tried to keep that Islam?
Yeah, there's famous ones in each of these communities, famous ones. But when you're dealing with a repressive state, like I was one of the Vietnamese brothers. There's actually Muslim Vietnamese, like they're not converts to Islam, reverts to Islam. He was telling me about like during the Ho Chi Minh, that whole war. He has I think called Champa. That's like a specific community. They're like the native people of that area. Like they're not like originally from China or somewhere. They're actually from there. And they showed me a letter like in their language, like in the mosque. Because in mosque you get all sorts of. So in our mosque we have some Vietnamese Muslims come, some Cambodian Muslims. Very good brothers. We know them, friends. Like we used to go fishing and all that. My dad and so forth. And so they showed me a letter in their language, like it's Arabic. They got an Arabic script.
Subhanallah.
And like they're like
in their language.
That's like extreme frontier of like if you take the Muslim world as they're like right on the edges, and somehow they develop this thing like the Burmese as well, Burmese Muslims as well, like because they are facing these sort of like regimes or rulers and kings and living under non-Muslims, minorities. It's different. Like it's a different type of. It was actually more to do with the spread of Islam, and they're reaching out into the further and further out. But when the nation state kicked in, they got cut off from the mainstream. Allah Alam. This is just. It's actually a very sad indictment of the main Muslim countries where they just I'm Egyptian or I'm Pakistani or I'm this and not care, not worry, and it's not even feel. Individual jamaats and groups do. But they sort of were left. They were left there. Yeah. So the Chinese. So back to what they were saying about the China, Chinese are, as far as I know, in my understanding of history, the two minorities, as far as I know, I could be wrong. The two minorities that have lived, Muslim minorities have lived the longest in a non-Muslim country. One is the Muslims in China, and there's different groupings. Some are like there's Hui and there's the Turkistanis, and there's different like homes between. It's not like one block. And then in Sri Lanka, as far as I know.
Sri Lanka,
yeah. I think they're like one of the. They've been there like for 1,200 something years, more than 1,000 years, as a minority. So it's very like they're interesting, and their experiences should be studied by Muslims in the West. Like how do they maintain longevity? Like in Sri Lanka, there's like 250 Darul Ulooms, madrasas. Like a very strong ulama. 10, about. I think it's 4,000 or 5,000 ulama body, like it's a 10% of the population, but like mashallah so in China they had, but I think with the Cultural Revolution, the communists coming in, communists were ruthless. It was one uncle I met in Tamworth, out of all places, Pakistani. He worked for an embassy.
Tamworth, country music capital of Australia.
Next to Xi'an, the horse race capital of Australia, things that you get to see in Australia. But so he said he worked in he said he worked in the embassy in China in the 60s and 70s, and the Cultural Revolution was so brutal. He said because Pakistani embassy, whatever, Muslims, we wanted to pray Jummah as we should, and there was an old masjid there, I think Shanghai at the time, or Beijing, I'm not sure, but he said that we got the masjid open, cleaned up. We applied from the government, they opened it for us. So we used to go for Jummah, and he said there's all these farms. When to go there, there's all these fields, and there's people working there. So when we going for Jummah, there's people working in the field. They would stop working, they'll come and stare at us, and we asked them who are these people, because they're Muslims, but they're not allowed to pray. So they used to, because they just want to come and just watch Muslims pray. So the Chinese have a history in the recent era. I'm not talking about Chinese people, average person. The Chinese regime or government, in the recent history, they've been brutal, dealt with Muslims brutally. So there's a lot of that in going on. So this brother said to me, I think a lot of Muslims don't know what communism meant for Islam. How detrimental it was for destroying the deen of or Muslim communities in these places. Inshallah, we make dua and that hope they come out of it and their deen intact, and hopefully this is a phase as opposed to like they're trying to engineer Islam out of China. Inshallah will never happen. Allah make them fail, and because they're going against Allah and His deen. You know? Yeah. So with them, they're trying to now engineer Islam through these internment camps, as we were saying earlier. I think the brother was saying like, and the education is so warped. He goes, my wife is 10 years younger than me, and she's never heard of the Cultural Revolution. What's the Cultural Revolution? Cultural Revolution is Mao's. It's called the Mao's Cultural Revolution. So Mao Zedong, like he was Zedong, he was a he basically wanted to he wanted to get rid of the whole Chinese Chinese history. Yeah, and re-educate everybody. Yeah. They wiped out his own history. Yeah, his own image. And it failed, and they acknowledged its failures. Like in the 80s, when the whole economy started open, they had to actually go back on renege on because they knew it was a failure, it was wrong. So in a way, but they maintained certain aspects of it, but then through all of that, there's famines because they broke up the whole farming thing. So he said the official history is 60 million people or whatever died. He killed far more because it was famine. Famine. Yeah. They said it's famine. Official thing is famine, but a lot of it is probably just gulags and just punishing people. And it was actually that's a very in Egypt, Dr. Mursi, rahmatullah, the president, he was put in a cage. So they stopped his medicines and everything going to him. Right, the former president of their country, they stopped all the medicine. So he died. He got shaheed inshallah and killed by a zalim. But they put with the whole his heart medicine or his they created a situation, send people to their death, basically. But then they call it like it was a famine. It was like blame it on natural causes or whatever. The thing is, that's just the one side of it. But if you have a look at what you're saying, they had to go back to their old ways. Now, if you have a look at the companies in terms of technology, in terms of development, China's at the forefront. I mean, take Huawei as an example. You can't blame any government for saying, "Nah, mate, you're not bringing your stuff here." But I would disagree with you. A lot of their technology that they do have, it's basically stolen. It's not like they came up with this new technology. They are the factory of the world. Yes. So if you want to make something, it's cheap. But I think Muslims have to start we're more than the Chinese. We're in number as Muslims. But the thing is, we are so disunited and things we can't get our act together. So we can actually say all right, I'll buy a Japanese. All right, we're not making our own phones. I don't know if any Muslim companies making its own phone. I'll buy a Samsung. The ringtone will be Assalamu alaikum warbar. Assalamu alaikum warbar. So we will be you can buy. I'll buy a Japanese brand. That's made in Japan, or made in Korea. Actually, that's a good point. So we can there are alternatives, and I think Muslims should start thinking why, especially Huawei. They're making facial recognition to recognize Muslims or Turkistani, like for security. They're actually building for the Chinese government. That's insane. I think the company that makes drones, JDV or JVK or something like that. I mean, 70% of their drone sales, America's drone sales, 70% of them come from this company, which is a Chinese company. Donald Trump's just recently banned any American organization. Basically, he's put that company on the blacklist. Yeah. Because Huawei and this company so Huawei's got the software, these guys have got the hardware, working together to implement drones that can do this facial recognition technology straight away. That's scary. Yeah. Think about that. I mean, we talk about in our countries or, in the West, there's this thing of cameras are everywhere. Big Brother is watching. It's a whole different level. Yeah, exactly. Imagine in China, the level of scrutiny that you're constantly under, even your apps. What do Muslims do that will actually have, the only thing these people understand is money. It's about business. It's about business. Look. So at the end of it all, all right, there's a massive zulm happening for Muslims. In China, there's nothing really. The Muslims' hands are tied around the world. You can't just walk in there, guns blazing or something, and do something because it causes more problem for them. Yeah. Right? Because they will go even more harder. Yeah. All right, we really have a problem here. Well, that's you can't fight it. You got to look at what the West is. Look, if you have a look at what the West is doing,
I mean, Trump with all his flaws, right? And
yeah, at least he had the guts.
I have many flaws as well. We all have flaws.
Yeah.
But one thing he did have the guts, like you was about to say, the guts to do is like, nah, we're not putting up with this.
Yeah.
Even when it came to all those trade agreements with China, he's like, right at the start, I remember 2016 or whatever when he came in, one of the things he was saying was, we have all these unfair trade agreements. Why is China still being treated, has all the allowances that a third world country gets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while we're doing business with them, why are we getting ripped off? And he flipped that on its head. And I think that's something
that's what the brother was saying to me as well. Because actually, people might not like him because in the West, Muslims are so left leaning, unfortunately. And he said that they're so left leaning, and they become like they're hurting the Muslims' feelings. Like they're hurting our feelings here, but over there, the Muslims are benefiting from having someone at least talk harsh to their government to do something about and put them under scrutiny. So we might not like him. He's individually, personally, he's probably a corrupt person, but he's actually, and this is like, it comes back to an understanding in deen, like where should you have a ruler who's good or have a ruler that's capable?
That's a good question.
And then the conclusion is, if there's a choice between the two, choose someone who's capable, because that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even in the hadith said, mention, if you pray behind a ruler when you lead salat, even if he's a fasiq. Hadith.
And what is a fasiq?
Fasiq, like a wicked, sinful person. He could be drunk, could be whatever, but not during salat, obviously. But it's like you pray behind him, even if he's a fasiq. And the thing is that his fisq, his sin, is for him. That's his burden. But he's still the ruler. So as long as he's doing his job properly and he's not doing you have to make sure you have to stay behind him. So the ideal is to get a good, pious ruler who's capable as well. Yeah. So but if you get some guy who's like prays, but doesn't know nothing about economy, nothing about military, nothing about and he rules, he's gonna destroy your country.
Yeah.
So there is a so this guy is probably like, I mean, he's not a Muslim, obviously doesn't apply. This is between us, but he's rude. He's abusive. He's got a lot of personal issues, and the Muslims in the West they don't like him because
they focus on all these words.
They take all the leftist rhetoric and he's hurting the immigrants' feelings, or he's hurting the thing. But then you've got like people like Obama and all these other people who are basically drowning Muslims around the world.
Yeah.
And he didn't start any wars against Muslims.
Yeah.
Like him that. Like he's probably the in the last 30 years the best person we had in terms of the overall ummah, if that's how we want to look at it.
The pain and destruction caused upon
the those people they destroyed Muslims overnight. It doesn't matter if it's Democrats or Republican, but this guy's at least he didn't start new wars with Muslims. Didn't like we sort of filter that out and leave it overseas, and we worried about our feelings being hurt here. Like that's a lot of it is just with Muslims. They made us feel bad and not make us feel inclusive. We've got to get over ourselves.
But over here we don't have that issue with Trump. He made us feel bad, or he didn't make us feel inclusive.
There are Muslims that they're going on and banging on about Islamophobia, and here as well. Some people they're professionals at complaining about being Muslim. I think we have to help Muslims overall help with that, but also be careful that we go down this road with groups, especially in the left. Like we have to be careful, go along with them, because that's now starting to, unravel. It's starting to unravel with all the LGBT nonsense and stuff. Like it's starting to unravel now. Now it's becoming very hard for Muslims to people who don't know if they're a man or woman. They don't know what they like. They don't know. It's becoming like really weird. Like people are.
I mean, it's funny that you say that, because it is weird, because Islam is conservative, and yet we're always, you know what I mean,
aligning ourselves with
all the weirdos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, weirdos according to you.
According to Deen, like they strange behaviors and actions, But anyway, all right. I think that's it for today, inshallah. So jazakumullah khair for tuning in. Inshallah, we hope next week, inshallah, we'll be back once a week. This podcast is once a week. It's a weekly podcast, and we are working on it. Inshallah, inshallah, we're building a studio. You can go to our social media and you can see it there.
Thank you for joining. Please subscribe, like, and press the bell icon. For any feedback or topic suggestions, leave a comment below. Assalamu alaikum.